You're at the window, turning a leaf toward the light, talking to it quietly. This isn't decor. It's something you can't say out loud. If your windowsill's gone jungle, you're about to find out why. Okay, so let's start with what everyone assumes. They think it's aesthetic, a trend, something you saw on a screen and copied for your own four walls. That's not wrong, exactly. It's just not the real reason. Look, think about the plant people you actually know. The ones with a monstera that has a name, a shelf of propagation jars, a group chat that exists just for leaf problems. Ask them why they started, and most of them won't have a clean answer. They'll shrug. They'll say something about just liking it. But watch what happens the moment one of their plants dies. It's not a shrug anymore. It's a whole afternoon lost to forums, trying to figure out what went wrong. You're moving a fern away from a draft at 11 at night because you read somewhere it doesn't like cold air. You didn't decide to care this much. It just happened, one plant at a time, until the apartment looked like this. And this is where it gets strange. Psychologists have a name for what's going on here. They call it a parasocial bond, a fancy way of saying a real emotional connection with something that can't actually connect back. You've probably heard the term used for celebrities, or YouTubers, or a character on a show you watch every single week. Researchers who study this have found it applies just as easily to a fern on your windowsill, especially for people going through some kind of transition, a new city, a breakup, a first apartment alone. This isn't really about plants. It's about needing somewhere to put your care that won't hand it back damaged. Think about that for a second. And that's part of why this exploded the way it did a few years back. During that long stretch when everyone was stuck at home, plant ownership didn't just rise a little, it spiked. People stuck in small apartments, cut off from friends, cut off from routine. They needed something alive to be responsible for, something that would still be there in the morning. A lot of plant parents, as they call themselves online, got their first plant during exactly that stretch. Not because they had extra time on their hands, because they had a hole that used to be filled by other people. Makes sense, actually. Every other relationship in your life can reject you. A friend can go quiet. A partner can leave. Family can disappoint you in ways you didn't see coming. But a plant just sits there. Water it, it grows. Ignore it, it droops. And it tells you exactly what it needs. No judgment attached. No passive-aggressive comment about it later. Sound familiar? Your body knows the difference, even if you never notice it consciously. Actual research on this found something interesting. People who spend a few minutes with their hands in soil show a measurable drop in stress. Touching leaves, checking for new growth, heart rate settles, blood pressure eases down. Not because dirt is magic, because for a few minutes, there's zero risk of disappointment in the room, right? And it's not just about looking at a plant across the room either. Just glancing at greenery does something. Sure, that's real, that's been shown too. But actually touching it, repotting it, checking a leaf for pests, that does something different. It pulls you out of your head and into your hands. For a few minutes, your attention has exactly one job. Not 5 tabs open, not a notification waiting. One leaf, one task, one outcome you can actually see. There's a second layer to this, though, one most people don't clock until much later. You're at your desk. Deadlines stacked up. An inbox you can't get to zero. A boss who changes their mind twice a day. Nothing about your job responds to effort in a straight line. You can do everything right on a project and still get a bad outcome, for reasons that have nothing to do with you. Then you walk past your plant shelf on the way to the kitchen, and there it is. New growth on the pothos you nearly killed back in March. Direct, visible, deserved. You did something specific, and the outcome matched the effort exactly. That almost never happens anywhere else in your week. That's not an accident. That's the actual pull.
Compare that to literally anything else in your life you're supposed to be responsible for. A career doesn't give you a clean scoreboard. A body doesn't always respond to effort the way health articles promise it will. Relationships definitely don't. You can show up perfectly and still lose someone. A plant is maybe the only thing left in an adult's life where cause and effect still behave the way you were taught they should.
Here's what nobody tells you. It's not really about nurturing. Not underneath it. It's about control. A small, contained ecosystem where the rules are simple, and you're the one who wrote them. Light, water, soil, a little rotation toward the sun. You control every single input, and for once, the output makes sense. I mean, think about how many parts of your life actually work like that. Almost none. Now, you're probably already forming a counter-argument. What about people who just like how it looks? Who buy one big fiddle-leaf fig for the corner of the room, call it a day, and never think about it again? Fair point, but even that instinct comes from the same place. A living thing, chosen by you, placed exactly where you want it, thriving under conditions you personally set. It's still a small act of building a world you actually control. You're just doing it with fewer plants and less noise about it. And notice the language people use around this, because it gives the whole thing away. Plant parent. My babies. I'm raising a monstera. Nobody talks about their bookshelf or their record collection that way. You don't call yourself a vinyl parent, right? But somehow, with something alive that actually depends on you, that language shows up constantly. People who've never met each other, different countries, different languages, same words. That's not a coincidence. That's an instinct looking for somewhere to land. Think about that. This is the part that's harder to talk about, though. For some people, the plants start filling in for something else entirely. A relationship that's missing. A kid who left for college and doesn't call as much. A person they used to take care of, who doesn't need them the same way anymore. The watering can becomes a stand-in for a kind of attention they don't have anywhere else left to put. That's not pathetic. It's just what a need does when it doesn't disappear on its own. It finds a new place to live, quietly, without asking permission. Picture someone whose kids just moved out. The house goes quiet, in a way that has nothing to do with noise levels. There's no one left to check on, no one left to feed, no one waiting for them to notice something. And then, without really planning it, the plant collection starts growing. Not because they suddenly discovered botany at 58. Because caretaking doesn't just switch off when the person you were taking care of doesn't need it anymore. It has to go somewhere. A fiddle-leaf fig can't replace a kid, but it can, at least, need you again. And let's be honest, a collection of 40 plants across every surface of a one-bedroom apartment isn't really about botany, whatever the caption says. It's a person who found one relationship in their life that can't leave, can't criticize them, and can't disappoint them back. Ever. Wild, right? There's a darker edge to it too, if you follow the thread far enough. When a plant dies, some people don't just feel annoyed. They feel like they failed at the one relationship that was supposed to be simple. The one thing that was never supposed to leave. That guilt is disproportionate to a dead succulent, but it makes complete sense once you know what the plant was actually standing in for. Wait, and for a smaller group, the plants quietly start replacing people altogether. Not on purpose. It happens one cancelled plan at a time. It's easier to spend a Friday night repotting than it is to text someone back who might not text back the same way. A plant will never leave you on red. It's a low-risk relationship. And after enough disappointment from the high-risk kind, low risk starts to look like the smarter option, even if it leaves you a little more alone than you meant to be. You're not overly sentimental for naming your plants. You're not high maintenance for checking on them every morning before coffee. And you're definitely not extra for grieving a dead succulent longer than feels reasonable to anyone else watching. That one's actually the most human part of all of this. You're not obsessed with plants. You're just someone who found a relationship you could finally trust. One that gives back exactly what you put into it, every single time, without fail. If you've ever caught yourself talking to a leaf like it can hear you, say so below. You're probably not the only one in the comments doing it. And if this resonated, that's pretty much what this whole channel is. Why you are the way you are.